Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we have excellent guest with us, Sondra Harmon from New York City.
Yay!
Yay! Okay, let's rock, Sondra. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, Juan, thank you so much for having me here because I really think my goal, my mission is really just to help people not suffer in relationships because relationships can be something that's like this amazing experience of life and having that closeness and connection, but it can also cause a lot of suffering. And if I could have it all my way, people would learn like a lot of the stuff that I learned over the last several decades. I kind of learned the wrong way. I had the relationships that sucked, and I sort of figured out what was going on. And I flipped over to the relationships that are amazing. So that's what I'm up to. That's what I would love just to share. And so I appreciate you letting me come on and talk a little bit about what
Mhm.
it is that I'm up to.
Okay, great. And I have here for people to check your website and they can see this is your story.
Yeah.
And so you live in Puerto Rico right now, not part, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and this is your picture, amazing picture at the amazing beach. And so
Yeah.
we'll talk a little bit about that. So tell me a little bit about how did you start about this career or this helping people and being life coach?
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't call myself a life coach. I really work very specifically with one area of helping people be able to fall in love and stay there. And a lot of that has to do with letting go of the hurt that comes after the falling in love part. Right.
Mm.
So you can have people that, they've been hurt. So now they don't want to fall in love again. Or you people have they're falling in love and it's amazing. And the first year is fraught with all these things, which can keep you from going like this way early on or going this way.
This,
So, yeah. So I don't know what I call myself, but it's really, I've helped people stay in love. I don't know that there's a title for it. And the way I ended up doing this is I I had three like long-term relationships and I always kind of liken myself to Goldilocks, right? The first one was too hard, the second one was too soft, so the third relationship should be just right. And in actual fact, my experience of it felt worse than the first two combined. And I was like almost 50. And I'd had three, 8 to 10 year relationships, and I just suffered in all of them. Business was easy, ran businesses, started businesses, started a nonprofit in Vietnam with my partner at the time. And, so even the philanthropic part of life, like nothing ever worked on my relationship. So finally, I'd had enough.
Mhm.
I really kind of hit bottom. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And it just turned out everything seemed to happen in one weekend. I met a woman who was at a business conference that I was attending, and she was one of the keynote speakers, and she was up there, talking about her product. It just, in this sexy red dress. She was 65 at the time, but she was wearing this sexy red dress, and she was kind of flirting with this guy in the audience, and I met them afterwards, and it was her name was Linda Shea, her husband was Frank Maggio, and he was her CFO. And I was like, isn't that adorable? They met, I think he was 70 at the time. She was 65. They met like late in life. One must be divorced. One must be maybe a widow or something. They'd been married 34 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they looked like newlyweds. She flirted with him like they were just starting to date or something. It was, I really never experienced it. And, I don't know, not many people I talk to, although I guess the people I talk to tend to come to me because they're struggling, have had, parents that were role models like that, where, they just stayed in love for decades and decades and decades. So I was really lucky to have her mentor me. And it actually was interesting because I was helping her with business. She was helping me with relationships. But the way it started with just a question she asked me. And I finally felt, like, here's this woman that like seems to have everything I wanted. And I was sitting there telling her my story about all these relationships, and I'm crying, and I'm in a restaurant. I've never been back to the restaurant. They probably remember me, but I was sitting there, and she looked at me, and a lot of times people say, "Oh, you need to do something about it. Oh, what a jerk he is. Oh, you should, read this book or whatever." And all she did is she looked at me and she said, "Sweetie, what's in it for you?" And I was kind of like, for me, that was the last time I ever cried like that. Because now all of a sudden it became an inner journey. Like I had never looked at like myself and how I was showing up and what I was needing and what I wasn't getting, all these things, I was always blaming other people. And it was that change that really, really, really made a difference for me. I ended up going to India, studying there, studying meditations, wisdom, teachings, and came back and started the organization there is called ECAM, and their founders wrote a book called Freedom in Relationships, which has meditations for relationships. And that's really what I focus on, is helping people through meditative processes and other type healing processes really be able to stay in love. So, and then because I like used all this and like created this amazing relationship with this amazing man, like I just want to share it with others. That's what I'm up to.
Great. So I think a lot of good things which you shared, and I will have people kind of absorb all that, because it first is, like you said, you were in relationship and you saw this and you realized that that's not where you should be, right? So that is important thing. A lot of people actually could be in some kind of relationship or any situation, good or bad, but they lose that touch, whether they have to with their old one, with the good one, with the good vibes, good times. So they go into this cocoon and then they kind of lay there. I always copy from a famous song, comfortably numb, right? They are comfortable and dumb to all this external world. So, and then, like you said, you realize that no, I'm in wrong flight or wrong path, right? So that's not where I should be, right? And then it just occurred to you and that you seek for help. And so I think that's very fascinating. I mean, a lot of people, first of all, they might not ask for help, and they just say, okay, whatever it is, that's fine. So there are good times, well, yeah, they forgot about that, all that. Do you see that also a lot in people?
That people don't ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see people asking for help, but maybe in the wrong places. Like the internet is filled with all these Facebook groups and all these forums where you can go and you can ask questions, and they're getting answers a lot of times from people that are struggling as much as they are. Right?
Yeah.
I think where people aren't asking for help is looking for the people that have, and this could be in relationships or anything, but look for those people that have what it is you aspire to.
Yeah.
Right? I used to do this in business, right? You're in business. Well, you want to be coached or you want to be mentored by somebody who's successful, right? You don't necessarily want to be coached or mentored by somebody who's just read a lot of books but doesn't actually know how to apply it, because there's a big difference, especially in relationships, with reading about something that somebody else wrote and having the lived experience, because they're two different things. Once you put something down in a book, people can turn it into a rule. And relationships aren't like that. Relationships don't have rules, and what works for me might not work for somebody else. And what works for me in this moment might be something that's not working 2 years from now, or 10 years from now, or say 30 years from now when I'm at a different stage at life. So I think it's important to keep that idea when you're looking for help is who is experiencing life in the way you want to experience it,
Mm-hmm.
and then making sure that you don't take anything in as a rule.
Mm-hmm. And so, for relationship also very important, for audience sake, we always say relationship means can be anything, between between husband wife, and could be between friends, or could be between their whichever stage they are. I mean, there could be two females, two males, or
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. For discussion's sake, rules are very same for all of them, right? Pretty much, right? You can say.
Yeah. Well, and the idea that having a rule, one of my rules is there really aren't any hard and fast rules. But
Mm,
yes, a relationship and wanting to experience more love with somebody, it's the same whether it's a girlfriend, whether it's your child, whether it's your stepchild. For some reason, I tend this is not what I do. I pretty much work mostly with women that are either just starting out relationships or want to get themselves in a good spot before they start their next relationship. But for some reason, I end up working with a lot of people who are having difficult relationships with their stepchildren. I don't know why, but it's the same, right?
mm.
Where are you trying to experience a different type of relationship than what you're experiencing now?
Okay, so since we're talking general first, so or it could be applicable to all. So we'll start with some basic ground rules or basic things which anybody can help or can try to make sure they cross check, double check, whatever they want to check those boxes first. So first thing, like you said, she told you what is there for you, right? That's
Yeah.
what your friend said. So, and that is, I think that's like really a deep question, right? So it can have a lot of meanings, and so and you felt right away. So tell me a little bit for anybody who has different stages of relationship. What is the basic thing they should concentrate on?
Hmm. I, if there's a difficult relationship, I like to have people focus on the the hurt and dissolving the hurt, because you wouldn't be having a relationship with somebody
Mhm,
if there wasn't something there. Like there was love in the beginning,
mhm,
right? I mean, even if it's with your child, like you see your child, you're in love with your child. Now they turn 17. What happened? Right?
yeah.
So taking a look at so that's the title of my book is The Power of Ouch. And it's really about a way to look at that thing that's keeping us from being connected, keeping us from feeling loving, keeping us from feeling joyful in a relationship. And looking at hurt can sometimes be hard. That's why it's illustrated. It's like a cartoon book just to make it lighter. But the first thing is to look at, like, what are you doing rather than being connected, rather than being in love? And you're going to be doing one of some number of things. You're going to be sweeping it under the rug, pretending it wasn't there. That was my favorite, right? That's how I ended up in relationships for so long that were hurtful. Is I would, oh no, I'm fine, it's all good, no problem. I'd cry myself to sleep, but that was my like, no, everything's fine. Blame, like blaming somebody else, actually, that that is no longer love. That's no longer partnership. Now you're putting somebody on the other side of the table,
Mhm,
right? The other might be self-blame.
mhm,
And it can feel better than blame because, well, at least I'm not, hurting someone else. But self-blame disconnects you in a relationship as much as blame does. There's things like running, whether mentally or emotionally, thinking that something will be better somewhere else. Like,
mhm,
oh, I need a new relationship. Oh, my date was, I don't know, they forgot to send me flowers on my birthday. All right, I'm going to go find someone else. Hiding, which is you don't even have anywhere to run anymore. Another interesting thing that we do that I have people take a look at is, are you daydreaming? Are you thinking that it's going to get better in the future? Are you just waiting for the kids to grow up or to get married? That'll make everything better, or to have a child, or to go on vacation next year when the business you have together is stable, whatever it is. All these ways of daydreaming about a potential future keep you from actually being connected and in love in the moment.
Mhm.
What are some of the other ones? There's strategizing. There's having rules. That's why I'm kind of anti-rule, because sometimes people will get hurt in a relationship,
Mhm.
and I see then this craving to just give me the rules. Like, what are the 5 rules? What are the things I need to do so that I won't ever get hurt again? So if you take all of this together and you really start looking at it, the one thing is, if you just realize that you are going to get hurt in a relationship, and how not to do the things that disconnect you.
Mhm. I also want to ask you for relationship. Do you think nowadays, I mean, we have all kind of help, you know, people think social media and all kind of help is there on internet as well as a lot of people. But do you think overall with time nowadays relationships are much weaker or commercialized than what used to be in the past?
I can only speak, my own experience only goes back about 50 some years. So I can't I can't speak to what really went on 100 years ago. We can read about it and people's accounts of it, but
Mm,
to really see what it was like 100, 200 years ago. I don't know. From 30 years ago, I would say that we have different challenges, but we also have different advantages. Yes, there is the challenge of social media, and there is the challenge of the ease that you can switch to a new partner, that you can run. You get your feelings hurt, you get disrespected, you're disappointed, you run to the next one. But on the flip side, there's a lot more acceptance than perhaps there used to be, which is one of the things, that the idea of expectations and labels and things have to be a certain way is a little bit less now. I look at the younger generation, when I talk to them, it's like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. The things that they have freedoms to do and express in terms of relationships, and who are you going to have a relationship with? Are you going to have a relationship with a woman? Are you going to have a relationship with a man? It can flip, and it's no longer this expectation that we have. So I think, in the sense of freedom to feel more ease with who we are, has gone up, but
mhm.
the ease that we can run or hide or switch is probably gone up too. So it might just be a wash. I really can't answer that one.
Mm. Well, this reminds me of example. I had time to travel one time, and I was going to through Middle East, and since you went through Asia too, so I was passing through Middle East, and they had this airline had this food service there free. So I thought, okay, I went there, and I saw there were 200 or 100 dishes, and I did not know what to eat out of those. So, yes, there are choices. There are, could be wonderful. Every dish looked perfect, but I lost appetite even by looking at all of them. I did not know what to do. So, and I said, oh, I will just eat exactly what I know of. I'll eat this and then I'll move on. I didn't know what those were for me. Same thing we have, we have 300 channels or 500 channels on TV and internet. People don't know what to watch. And then we are lost now. We have so much variety. Exactly, you're saying we have so much things, but if you're not sure, you can be lost very easily, and you don't know where you have to go.
Yes, and I was having a conversation the other day about this, because it kind of used to be, if you think about humanity and how we lived in these small tribes and small villages a long time ago, and that's probably
Mm,
how our bodies and our psyches are built, that
mm,
it was a lot about fitting in to what was what was acceptable in that tribe or that village at the time. And
Mhm.
now, because you're right, like there's so many choices, it's more like you need to go out and find your own tribe. Just like you need to go out and find your own curators. I'm sure people are following you because you're bringing people to them that match up with what they want to listen to or what they want to hear, which is amazing. So it
Mhm.
becomes just different strategies rather than having to fit in to a tribe. We learn to find our tribe.
Mm. And that's true. That I think nowadays the best survival mode is similar. That you have to find your kind of liking and just stay with those. And those, you don't need to have 200 friends or 500, 5,000 friends on Facebook, which is great, but out of which maybe only few reliable or the few really good ones, if you really need help, then they will come to you. I think I was very sad to see that few very young YouTubers and very famous when they committed suicide
Hmm.
because they could not keep up. I think that's really sad that you have so many followers and everything, but none are your friends. Unfortunately, none are. So you have to live with very few basic concepts of relationship and which don't change, whether it's 2021 or whether it's going to be 2041, or we could be on Mars or Venus or wherever. But I think the basic structure of relationships don't change, which is communication, honesty, and have some sincerity and loyalty to something, right? So and trust, right? Those will never change.
I think one of the things that I think won't change is what love feels like.
That's true. That's so true.
I mean, I think that is really, really the basic thing because I look at, like what is a lot of times people say, oh, the number one thing in relationship is communication. But that is so like, well, what is that? It's to some people that means sitting and talking for 5 hours, and every time you're upset, that you go and you have a conversation with that person that you're upset with. That's something I don't even
Mm.
agree with. Right?
Very
Because
hard.
it's better to have the conversation once you're not upset than while you're upset. So and it works for some people, right? There's all these different ways and different teachers teach different things, but the one thing that just doesn't seem to change is what love feels like.
Perfect. Yeah, perfectly said. That feeling. But you're absolutely right about communication. It doesn't mean that you have to really talk or text or because there are many times I'm sure. I mean, people send these "I love you" probably 1,000 times a day, but those do they really mean out of those times? So that is another thing. So in previous years, or especially some of our culture, Asian culture, they're not very expressive. They wouldn't say a lot "I love you." They might not even hold a lot of hands and kissing in public, but they would still have these feelings and everything is same. You're absolutely right. You don't need to express in certain way all the time. You can have your ways, right?
Yeah. I
And so
I,
that
I want to tell you. Can I tell you a story about the in love
yeah, yeah,
thing?
go.
Because my mother, when I was first starting to date my now husband, kept saying, or not kept saying, but she's like, "Oh my gosh, has he said he loves you?" And I said no. But when he says good morning, it really feels like he's saying I love you. So
That's a good.
right, it's the feeling. And anyway, that I just when you said that, I'm like, oh, I've got to tell this story. Thanks for letting me jump in.
No, I love it because see, that's where our show is. Is our show is totally unscripted. We go by each everybody individual, and exactly like you could jump in, you could just click to you. And when you were saying same thing, click to me. I was traveling and I said, oh, I have so many things, but that's exactly what we do. I don't like those scripted. Okay, give me 5, give me 3, and this percentage, and those are, in my opinion, not real. shows. So I think we learned a lot. Oh my God! And then I will remember that that you say your husband says good morning. The way he says, you can feel the love. He doesn't need to say I love you. In addition, so that is, and there could be just smile. There could be just smile, or there could be your eyes, and your eyes can talk too, of course, and they will have a lot of there's a verbal and non-verbal communication.
You can communicate with more than your eyes too.
Yeah, with anything you like, That's wonderful. That's okay. Also, tell me, what was your experience about learning meditation?
Oh wow. Well, I never could meditate. I read practically every book on meditation,
Hmm.
and it never worked because
Hmm.
I actually never meditated. But it was interesting because a friend of mine who would put on these retreats in the U.S., this woman Preetaji and her husband Krishnaji would come from India and do retreats. And he kept saying, "Hey, you need to come." I'm like, "No, look at me. Look at me. I cannot sit still. Why on earth do you think I could meditate?" I'm like, "No." And he finally, after asking me so many times, said, "Hey, a friend of mine is going to have a party and we're going to do karaoke." So it turned into like a karaoke meditation party where first you had to do this meditation with a monk who showed up from India. And then and then we drank and then we karaoke because I'm a big karaokeer, loved karaoke. But this monk, I will never forget it, Udamaji, dialed in on Skype, led the simplest little wisdom because the way that they deal, the way they transmit that those states are through stories and energy, I guess. So he told this little story. Like, okay, well, that was interesting. And then he walked us through the tiniest little meditation. It was simply inhaling, exhaling, but noticing the tiny point where your breath changes from an inhalation to an exhalation. And I don't know what it was, but I went away like, wow, that was amazing. And I ended up at one of the retreats. Finally, my friend Sanjeev talked me into it. And then right after that to India to study directly with the founders there on becoming one of their meditation instructors and then wisdom teachers later. So it's interesting. Like the type of meditation I do is not, I tell people, a lot of people interact with meditation through like that calm app, the
Mhm.
calm app. And they'll say, oh yeah, I love meditation. It helps me fall asleep. That's not what I do. I wake people up. My meditations wake people up to love. So it's kind of the opposite of the calm meditations. We're actually getting into a meditative state and then looking at those things that might be preventing you from having great relationships.
Wow, that's wonderful. So your meditation, philosophy and technique is actually helps you to wake up and kind of realize that. So do you incorporate breathing, yoga? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a little bit. It always there's a topic and a teaching. So and which includes stories. There's always some breath. There's always, but that's really just to get you into a state. So different breath helps you do different things in terms of attention or relaxation.
Mhm.
And then there's always like an inner journey. And sometimes there's types of yoga, types of releases, because it all kind of works together. Um, the part that really I love is is this idea of us using our mind to deconstruct our mind. And it's just a different way of doing things, but I don't know. I love it. And a certain number of people, that's their path. That's their path to relationships. That's their path to becoming more, I don't want to use the word enlightened, but like freer.
Mhm.
Right? Some people do it through, some people become more free and have great relationships through religion, through surrendering to a higher power. That's one really valid way. Some people through, energy work and or yoga of the, like the body type work. Mine's just, the path that I've chosen and that I like to lead others through is like just
Mhm.
taking a look, being curious.
No, that's very nice. I'll just again tell everybody who's watching, and later on too, check out sondraharmon.com, and this is the website. And as you can see, her recent interviews and summits, prescription for success, and there is February was a love month for you, and then so those are the ones, and plus she does also then do you do one-to-one coaching or how do you do?
Yeah, I do. I actually do one-on-one work. And again, it's really more like how do you release those things that have happened that are preventing you from being in love? Because I believe it's natural for us. It's natural for us to connect. It's natural to fall in love. Like nobody teaches us how to fall in love. That feeling comes naturally. It's the things that get in the way that I work on. And I do, one of the fun things that people can do is I do a weekly, I call it Wake Up to Love Wednesdays. So if you register for that each week, I'll send you things, goodies or articles or videos from myself and other people that I follow. And I do very often live. I have a Facebook Live, but go to my website, register there. It's a lot easier.
So Sandra, do you when you do those weekly, do you also say good morning?
Do I say good morning?
And people can feel your love.
No, the lives I do. And yeah, and then anyway, I've got lots of ways to engage, but I love being with people live. I love talking to people. I do some interesting, you ask, and I kind of hesitated saying that I work with people one-on-one. I do, but only on a year-long basis.
Mhm. Okay.
Um,
Okay. So it was wonderful knowing you and learning about you. And I'll again tell everybody check her website. And it's great and such a great personality to get advice from and also learn about. So you have your book too, Power of Ouch.
yeah, that's it's on Amazon. You can download it, you can order a printed copy, and it's really everything that I know. So I tried to put everything I know about how to release hurt into one book and put a lot of graphics and animations and cartoons. So I trying to take a really difficult subject and make it fun, well, as best as I can anyway.
Okay, great. And thank you. I think everybody should check her book too. Take care. Thank you once again for coming to us.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye bye. Bye.